Midlife crisis. If you're in your 40s, 50s, or whenever, you have heard the term midlife crisis. You may have experienced one. You may have lived with somebody going through one. But what does it mean exactly? I mean, traditionally, people think it means some man going nuts, leaving his wife and kids, getting a Corvette, dating a 20-year-old, maybe two, and that's a midlife crisis. No, no. For some people, yeah, but no, that's not really it. Oftentimes, it's much darker, much darker. And what I want to talk about today is for men and for women. And we're going to talk about how do you really decode your man's midlife crisis inside the mind of a man? How do you decode a man's midlife crisis and how you can help? So I'm Bradley Richardson, five-time author, two-time bestseller. I'm in my 50s. I've had a midlife crisis, and I'm the creator of Advanced Adulting, where I write, speak, coach, create content to help grown-ass adults navigate midlife and beyond. And today, we're going to talk about what's a midlife crisis and how can you help someone through it. That's it. Not long ago, I was asked by some friends of mine in the UK who run a magazine. They're called Crunchy Tales, and it is a lifestyle magazine for middle-aged women. And it talks about all kinds of things and women going through menopause, their own version of a midlife crisis in a way. And they had asked me to write an article about, or for women, about just this. Help us understand our man about what's really going through their heads in a midlife crisis. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because it's much more nuanced than you think. And so if you're a man, watch this. Some of this may completely resonate and you identify with it and know you're not alone. And if you're a woman watching this and you've got someone in your life, it could be your person, it could be your brother or whatever, but you're going to have some greater understanding at the end of this. So I want to share this with you. And if it looks like I'm reading, well, maybe I am, but you know what? I wrote this, so I know what I'm doing. Here we go. There are many parallels between a man's midlife crisis and women going through menopause. Not only the physical aspects, of course, but the fact that there are phases in people's lives that are highly personal journeys and experiences that can impact the people around us sooner or later. I was having this conversation earlier this week with my partner, who's menopausal, and it continues to amaze me the depth of what men and women don't know about each other from a simple developmental or physiological aspect. And it's also safe to say how amazing it is we know about ourselves as well. Understanding, awareness, acceptance, and recognizing it's an individual journey for the other person is huge. That's it. It's not always about you. It's they're going through it. But it goes that way for both men and women. And yet too often, in both cases of women dealing with menopause, or you're the one going through a midlife crisis, the spouse or the other person or partner, they feel it's about them. What did I do wrong? Well, thoughts like, I'm unattractive. They don't want me. They want something else, or they want someone else may suddenly come up in a woman's mind. But while in some cases that's true, the reality is that for many men, there are so many things going on behind the scenes or in our heads that nobody ever sees or hears, least of all their spouse or their woman, that it has nothing to do with her personality, her sex, or attraction. Not at all. In fact, it's internal, and it's much bigger and much, much darker than that. So what a man's midlife crisis really is versus what a lot of people suppose it is. So let's start by talking what many people still think a midlife crisis is, especially as it relates to men. Okay. So a lot of people believe it revolves around the idea of chasing your youth, getting the yellow Corvette, having an affair, leaving your partner for a younger woman, dating your daughter's friends, dressing differently. But generally, when you talk to men and get them to really open up about what's going on in their lives, it couldn't be further than the truth of what's going on inside their head. See, you can't paint a midlife crisis with a broad brush or claim that men just want to throw away responsibility, be free in some sort of delayed adolescence or, BS Peter Pan syndrome. Yeah, that's how some people handle it. That's how some men choose to react to this phase of life. Though it's a behavior, that type of behavior is really a way to just avoid looking at what's going on inside. And so blowing up their world and, ruining the world for the people they love and just for just a temporary fix or chasing tail or whatever, it's not really looking at the root cause. Those men who are brave enough to look at the root cause, it's a very different thing. So contrary to societal assumptions, that's not how a lot of men handle their midlife crisis. As I said, it's much darker, quieter, and equally as destructive, though, because they keep it inside and nobody ever knows what's going on. So depression and suicide among middle-aged men are at record levels, as are mental health issues, alcoholism, drug abuse. So clearly there's something going on inside of men that's bigger than what you see from the outside. Sometimes they become just a shell of themselves. There's a lack of desire for you, for their job, for their life. They just give up and suffer in silence really until they check out. And they and the people around them ultimately end up paying the price. On the other hand, there are men who take this time to reflect and evaluate. And that can be driven by a crisis or some sort of result. It might be a crisis of confidence. It might be a mental or emotional one. It might be some sort of crisis and realization of how their actions over time have impacted someone else. Some giant life event kind of wakes them up and shocks them into doing something about it. Now, there's a whole other school of thought out there. Personally, I don't buy into those people who use the euphemisms like it's a chrysalis to portray this critical phase of life by denying that it exists, or they refuse to call it what it is. Yeah, it can result in a positive outcome, such as an awakening or reinvention, but sometimes you have to go through hell to get there. And that's the truth. So how does a man's midlife crisis happen and why does it occur? Well, every man's different. But several common issues can contribute to this period of crisis or reflection. And for some of them, it's the first time that they realize they can't or aren't able to do what they once could. So we question our competence, our confidence, our relevance. And as a man, I mean, we're incredibly competitive. It's how we're wired and built. We're purpose-driven, achievement-driven. And when something like that happens, we start questioning our competence, confidence, and relevance. Because we've been raised this way. And for better or worse, we place a lot of our self-worth, our self-esteem, our desirability in those things. So when you can't do it anymore, it becomes internal and you're thinking, oh God, no one's going to want me. I'm useless. I can't do this. And we keep that in there because we know that it's the first time we haven't been able to do it. And so at midlife, we sometimes also look at, whether or not we've met expectations, right? Whether it's our own expectations and goals, whether it's society's, whether it's our families, our spouses, work expectations, have we come close to achieving our goals? We're provers, we're doers. And so we want to prove that we're capable of things. And we want to prove that to ourselves, to the world, obviously to the woman we love. And sometimes when we have the perception of becoming the man who's gone from being the one that she chose and she wants and she looks up to the man who can't do anything right, that's tough. That's tough. It's also a direct blow to the ego and our perception of ourselves. How we are, how we want to be, how others see us. It's not uncommon for there to be this feeling of, I want to feel relevant and competent again. I remember in my own life, I mean, the first times when I'm like, wow, I can't do that anymore. Or wow, it's just different. It's not the same. It hurts and you take it personally. When we aren't able to really articulate that or define what it means at this stage of life, sometimes we run, we grasp, we retreat. Sometimes you curl up, in bed or in a bottle, you lash out or you deflect and hide behind things. And God forbid men ask for help. Oh no, and they're sure as hell not going to ask their spouse or partner for help. But it's not help per se that we're looking for. It's really not. Rather, it's an acceptance and an understanding that it's normal to evaluate these things. We think we're the only ones going through it, okay? At least, by acknowledging that, it lets us get out of our heads and get beyond our feelings for a second. Additionally, I mean, we talked about all these things, the financial pressures. Financial pressures are very real. And I can't tell you the number of men whose crisis or even suicide, in some cases that I know, have dealt around their ability or inability to provide adequately for their family or by their spouse's expectations. And nobody knew it until they're too late. They suffered in silence. For the first time, many men not only look inward, but also at their surroundings. Where do they fit? And we start to consider our own mortality. You know, we're bulletproof. We can do everything until you realize, damn, that runway is getting shorter. We realize that we can't do what we used to, or we failed to come up short for the first time. We realize that perhaps we came up short on our own dreams, achievements, or our own potential as an earner, a provider, a husband, a father. We look at our parents, we look at their absence, their shortcomings, and wonder if we're becoming like our fathers. That's a huge one right there. And we're lonely. It's well researched and documented that men have significantly fewer friends than women, and golfing buddies do not equate to real friends who you can open up to. Then there's the andropause crisis. Now, believe it or not, women are dealing with menopause, their bodies and emotions. Just as they're going through all of that, men also are experiencing this evil puberty 2.0 on our own. Andropause is a real deal. Yes, low testosterone, weight gain, the inability to add muscle. You wake up 5 times in the middle of the night to pee, and it takes you 5 minutes each time because your prostate is about as big as a golf ball. And you know, for women especially, it's not that he isn't attracted to you anymore. This is important. It's not that he's not attracted to you. It's a simple fact that he knows that the things aren't really going to work like they used to, that if they work at all, it's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be emasculating. That's just it. Okay. Sorry. You know, your junk doesn't work like it does when you were 21 or hell, when you were 31 years old. And we never talk about it. And we sure as hell don't want to talk about it with our wives, girlfriends, or partners. We don't. We don't want to let our woman down. Certainly not in the bedroom. Jesus. And so many men avoid discussing it or avoid having sex because we feel shame in ourselves, and in some cases made to be felt ashamed about it. Now, shame's a killer, regardless of how it occurs, regardless of where it comes from, whether it's sexual, financial, material, anything. And it drives some men to just clam up, lash out, or run. That's it. So what do you do about it? How can you help the men or men in your life? How can you do that? Well, there is no two-step formula to make it work. Time and willingness to acknowledge, reflect, and do the work, they help. But again, this is a personal experience and struggle. Just like you're going through menopause. For that man, it's a personal thing that he's going through. But as a couple, conversation and understanding can go a long way for both of you and show value to the individual and to the union you have together. How to help your husband? Well, communication, awareness, acceptance. Okay. And here's the thing. It doesn't mean you have to accept bad behavior. It doesn't. And it doesn't mean you saying you need help. You need to go get that taken care of. It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Encourage your husband to talk about what's bothering him. Listen actively without judgment. Try to see things from his perspective. Might be a key. Instead of accusatory, how about that? That's a good word. How about instead of accusing him or using I statements to express how his behavior is affecting you? Okay. Now that's it. So I feel, okay. It's not your problem, okay, but I feel. Also be open to change. Okay. Your husband might express a desire to pursue a neglected passion or make a career shift. So see, maybe he just wants to take up a guitar or golf or work out or paint or anything like that. Doesn't mean he's got to go get a Corvette and chase 20-year-olds. No, he just wants to grow and make sure that he can be competent and learn something new. Be supportive within reason and explore ways you can participate in that newfound interest. Okay. Again, it's a time for you all to come back together again as well. Now, not to oversimplify it, but a non-judgmental environment and space to explore what's going on internally, physically, emotionally, go a long way to supporting your partner and your relationship. Now, of course, it goes both ways. And being able to have those conversations to understand each other, to understand and accept that you're two individuals that make up the union. It's crucial. And yet, to make the union work, each individual has to be working properly. Okay? So, in conclusion, look, midlife crisis is an opportunity for growth. It really is. It can be a time to reflect, to evaluate, to start over, to expand, both individually and as a couple. So offer that support, open communication, and a willingness to explore change, because life's changing. You're changing, right? You change individually, you change together. And by being open to that and communicating, you can help your man navigate this very, very challenging phase, and both of you come out stronger. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments below, and make sure that you follow this channel for more things to help you navigate midlife personally, professionally, relationships with everybody else and yourself. Hey, and if you like this video, it spoke to you, let me know, but also share it with someone. Share it with your man. Share it with a friend of yours whose husband's going through this. Just make sure that we become comfortable talking about this. And again, if you like this and you want more content like that, make sure you subscribe and check out the next video. Thanks.